Perhaps Mars isn't actually all sterile and barren. With humans putting in a lot of effort to prove that we're not alone out here, there seems to be evidence, though questionable, that alien life might actually exist. More specifically, Martian life. So what evidence points to the existence of life on the red planet? And more importantly, what's with the alien skull found on Mars? Stick around as we examine the supposed evidence that points toward the existence of Martian life. Since the picture of what seemed like a skull surfaced, the never-ending sensation of alien life existence has gripped its viewers, and though some are quick to dismiss this photo as just one of those mind tricks that are all too common in everyday life, it might actually be too soon to disregard the possibility of Martian life. Why so? The planet might be at low freezing temperatures and dry as a desert, but this doesn't dismiss the possibility of life's existence on the planet. A closer look at the red planet's history might prove its sterile conclusion unlikely. Its 24-hour day is not the only similarity to Earth, as both planets were formed from the same materials. Although early Mars was no doubt colder than Earth, it was much wetter and wasn't subject to the cosmic radiation of our solar system yet. Rather, it actually had bodies of water such as streams, lakes, and might even have possessed a northern ocean. While Earth developed with plate tectonics and the growth and evolution of life, the red planet regressed, resulting in a decline in its geologic activity, loss of its magnetic shield, and loss of its water, implying that some 4 billion years ago, Mars might have been an abode to life. Without its magnetic field to protect the planet from solar winds and cosmic radiation, the red planet lost its thick atmosphere, and without this, the planet couldn't retain enough heat for liquid water. Despite possibly having an ocean in its northern hemisphere as well as other scattered bodies of water, all that's left of moisture on the planet is no more than a memory, with the ice caps at the poles and probably underground being the only thing reminiscent of the planet's former moisture content. However, in spite of the almost inhabitable conditions of the Martian surface, Mars could still be home to underground organisms, protected from the high levels of UV radiation on the surface. A good example of an organism is methanogens. These organisms are the oldest and simplest organisms on Earth, and fun fact, they do not require oxygen. Rather, they depend on hydrogen for energy, and carbon, IV oxide, is the main source of carbon atoms they utilize in making organic molecules, thus making them ideal candidates for organisms that can survive on Mars. But here is where the problem arises. Just below the Martian surface, the atmospheric pressures are extremely low and would normally be considered inhospitable to life. With the atmospheric pressure on the Martian surface being 100th to 1,000th that of Earth, the big question now is, can methanogens survive in extremely low pressure conditions? This was put to the test on 4 species of methanogens, and after about a year, the results were conclusive. Low pressure might not really affect the survival of the organism for some species. When our planet first came into existence, it wasn't the green, hospitable environment we are used to today. Rather, it was rather high in methane and devoid of oxygen. Tiny microscopic organisms, known as microbes, kick-started life on Earth. And given the right opportunity, Mars would have been inhabitable today with sufficient oxygen levels, but this reality faded with its magnetic field. On the other hand, as Earth developed, life on it evolved with the available conditions. So what if Martian life evolved as well? What if certain organisms survived the harsh conditions of the Martian surface and sought protection underneath the corroded surface? The chances of that are substantially above average, and dismissing the possibility of life on Mars, or should we say within Mars, might be premature. The ALH 84001 meteorite, which landed on Earth from space some 13,000 years ago, is not only to be believed of Martian origin, but also contains fossils of Martian organisms. The hypothesis that the carbonates in the meteorite had been produced by Martian organisms might be controversial, but it really backs up strong indications that the planet once and might still be an abode to life. NASA has been invested in the exploration of space since its inception over half a century ago, and Mars has been one of the important areas of their space expedition. The Viking program was initiated in the late 1970s, and in that effort, Viking 1 and Viking 2 were launched to search for life on the Red Planet. The mission was successful, and the two spacecraft became the second and third craft to land on Martian soil. But did they discover life? Not really, but Viking 1 took a very interesting photograph that puzzled the public. The photo of the Sidonian region later became known as Face on Mars. Taking a closer look at the picture on the screen, it sure has a humanoid resemblance down to the lips and nostril. How did NASA scientists explain this? They didn't buy the alien conspiracy theory and quickly dismissed it as a trick played on the mind by light and shadows. 2 decades later, it turned out that they were indeed right when more detailed photographs of the face were taken in 1998. How about the image of a supposed human thigh bone found on Martian soil? Or the discarded spoon just laying casually in the soil? Or perhaps you'd be more intrigued by a floating one. The speck of light photographed in the distance, a tiny squirrel playing hide and seek among the rocks, the woman on Mars, Martian blueberries. The list goes on and on. These multiple instances really make us wonder if aliens are actually calling out to us in subtle ways. In the exploration of Mars, we found ourselves feasting and theorizing on numerous images that most times turned out to be just pareidolia. Pareidolia is the tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningless image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern. It turns out this is just our ancient survival instincts perpetuating our everyday life from time to time. You don't believe a lion lives in the skies because you saw a lion-shaped cloud, or do you? The discarded spoon turned out to be just rocks, same as the camouflage squirrel, and the woman on Mars, and the bone, and the blueberries, and the light in the distance? To the disappointment of many, it wasn't signaling the presence of Martian aliens in a faraway building. Rather, it was most likely caused by a cosmic ray. But down to the main course. The alien skull found on Mars doesn't seem to have much depth either. NASA's Curiosity rover indeed took an image that pretty much looked like an alien skull, which makes us wonder, is this a remnant of a crumbling civilization? However, it sadly turned out to be an instance of pareidolia, just like the others that have surfaced before it and will most likely appear after it. Does this mean that the discovery of life on Mars might be a long shot? Not really. Perhaps we need to stop attaching greater meanings to rocks that are no more than rocks and focus on what's beneath. The Viking's probes performed 3 experiments, and one of them, the labeled release experiment, results came out positive for life. But since the other 2 came out negative, the result was dismissed, and it was concluded that Vikings found no life. Nearly 30 years after this event, Joseph Miller, neurobiologist and former NASA Space Shuttle project director, and his team believe that the LR experiments performed by the probes 4,000 miles apart really did find signs of extant microbial life on the planet. And the Jezero crater, which is believed to have been once flooded with water, seems like a good place to start in the active exploration of Martian life beneath the dry surface. Our universe is really large, and our planet is just a very tiny fraction of it. Hence, it would be bizarre if the only planet hosting life is Earth. What other planets out there host life? The red planet might seem inhospitable to life, but there is a possibility that it was once inhabitable. Is there any robust life forms left on the planet's declining conditions? Or perhaps Martians are hiding from aliens invading their planet? If they are, they're really doing a good job while making humans look like a fool at the same time.